Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. This is a very important episode because we've learned from our sources in Washington that the president has a secret plan to fund infrastructure, and we've learned why President Biden may not be able to completely undo the tax cuts from former President Trump in 2017, which ironically were passed through budget reconciliation. The exact same tool used by the Biden administration, used by the Democrats in the House and the Senate to pass the whopping $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan. Welcome to this episode of Ignition Time, everyone. This right here is a little bit of information about me. You learn more about who I am, what my journey has been like, and why you should listen to me. So check out my video. Welcome to our channel, everyone, and let's just jump right in. On your screen, you see the headline of an article published by the New York Times, and the headline reads, Biden's recovery plan bets big on clean energy. Here's a quote from the article, and as always, you'll get a link to the article in the description section below, so make sure to check that out. The underlying message that the next step of America's economic recovery is fundamentally trying to counter the climate crisis represents a major pivot in the way Democrats make the case for tackling global warming. No longer merely an environmental imperative like saving the polar bears or a side element of a stimulus package like it was under the Obama administration, climate change has now become the centerpiece. Administration officials say they view averting catastrophic warming and pursuing American dominance of the emerging global industries as inseparable. In other words, they're trying to tackle two major objectives at one time. This is a sharp break from even the most recent Democratic administration, where President Biden at that time was vice president, let alone the Trump era, because during the Trump era there was almost no focus on climate change, when the president denied the existence, meaning former President Trump, denied the existence of climate change. So folks, this is a new agenda, if you will. This is a new focus with climate change at the center of the next major infrastructure bill, the Build Back Better agenda. So the next question is, how are we going to pay for all this? There's a lot of money that's required, $1.9 trillion in the American Rescue Plan. At least $3 trillion potentially higher for the Build Back Better agenda. Well, they're going to tax the rich. Here's an important article on your screen from the Washington Post. White House eyes tax increases on companies and the wealthy to fund infrastructure, setting up a clash with the Republican Party. Folks, the Republicans believe that businesses should be allowed to make money and therefore businesses can create more jobs. The Democrats fundamentally believe that businesses should be taxed more and the low-income earners and the middle-income earners should have a tangible shot, a real shot at the American dream. It's actually very clear where the priorities of the White House lie and what we are likely to see towards the second half of this year. Here's a comment from White House economist Heather Bauchi. She told Bloomberg News this month, folks at the top who've been able to benefit from this economy and haven't been this hard hit, there's a lot of room there to think about what kinds of revenue we can raise. Now, here's an astonishing statistic for our viewers and subscribers. The top 1%, the wealthiest individuals in our country, saw their wealth increase by $4 trillion. I didn't say that that was their total wealth. I said they saw their wealth increase by $4 trillion in 2020. They saw a 35% increase in their net wealth. So they effectively went from $8 trillion in net assets in wealth to $12 trillion. They saw their wealth increase by $4 trillion in the year 2020. That's what Heather's talking about. On the other hand, individuals in travel, leisure, entertainment, and hospitality, low-income earners, middle-income earners, Hispanic individuals and African-American individuals more so than white individuals, women more so than men, saw their jobs disappear, in many cases lost their jobs permanently. 40 million of our fellow Americans were on unemployment at one point or another during the year 2020, while the rich became substantially richer in 1 year. This is what the Biden administration is trying to target, and this is their secret agenda to try and close the wealth gap, to try and close the income gap for the US government by taxing the rich more. The low and middle income earners need a way to escape the cycle of poverty that you see on your screen right now, so that they have a tangible shot at the American dream. Ironically, and this is an interesting side note, low-income earners tend to buy a lot more lottery tickets. They actually spend more money every year than any other income class on lottery tickets. And in case you're thinking, oh, why are they wasting money? That's because low-income earners want a tangible shot at the American dream while they look at others who continue to live their own American dream. So that was an interesting side note. Low-income earners need help so that they can essentially escape once again the cycle of poverty that you see on your screen right now, and have a real shot, a viable shot at the American dream. Not just lip service, but a viable shot. And an important part of that viable shot involves the US government being able to raise income from the rich, because I don't think the Biden administration is going to try and raise taxes on middle income America. In fact, this poses a rather interesting conundrum where raising taxes on middle income individuals would be, I believe, politically a death knell, and I don't think either party is going to attempt it. So in one way, shape or form, we're going to have to reverse former President Trump's tax cuts in 2017, but that's going to be a problem. Here's a headline of an article on your screen from CNN: why President Biden will not be able to totally undo Trump's tax cuts. And this was essentially some reporting from Goldman Sachs, who did a review on this. According to Goldman Sachs, it will be politically damaging for President Biden to raise the corporate tax rate. And here's a quote from the article. And by the way, you'll get a link to the article in the description section below. Such moves would deal a significant blow to corporate profits, wiping out an estimated 9% of next year's S&P 500 per share earnings, according to a client report published by Goldman Sachs. However, Goldman is betting that President Biden's tax plan ambitions will get watered down by political realities. Republicans are expected to oppose it, and moderate Democrats like the conservative Democrat Joe Manchin may oppose it too. Goldman Sachs is penciling in a smaller hike that lifts the corporate tax rate from 21%, where it is now. Remember, it came down from 35% down to 21% under former President Trump. That was massive. Goldman Sachs is predicting it won't go from 21 to 28, which is what President Biden has talked about, but it'll go from 21% up to 25%, and that would create a 3% drag on earnings. In other words, the companies will still be able to make a boatload of money. They'll be able to continue paying out their dividends. They'll be able to continue having their share prices go through the roof. And that is what Goldman Sachs is looking at. In fact, the US Chamber of Commerce also weighed in on this, and they are not a fan of increasing tax rates for corporate companies in the ultra wealthy. According to Neil Bradley, the US Chamber of Commerce's executive vice president and chief policy officer, this is what he said. He said, coming out of the pandemic, raising taxes, especially to the degree the Biden administration is proposing, would hobble any economic recovery. So that's where things stand, everybody. There's going to be a lot of opposition for President Biden as he tries to raise corporate tax rates, because the US Chamber of Commerce is against it. Goldman Sachs has effectively said that this would backfire on them politically. And I can tell you that the Biden administration, like any administration, pays attention to everything, specifically and most importantly for them, political realities. You see, politics is about timing, opportunity, tribalism, and perception. If the Biden administration feels that raising corporate taxes would endanger their fundraising efforts, would endanger other things that could create a chain reaction that could come back to hurt the party politically, I don't think they're going to go through with major tax cuts, which begs the question, who's going to pay for all this money? Check that out. It's been raining money. Who is going to pay for this? Someone has to pay for this at some point. Or is the Biden administration going to kick the can down the road? Is that what's going to happen? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time. This right here is a little bit of information about me. Check out my video. You'll learn more about who I am, what my journey has been like, and why you should listen to me. I would really appreciate it if you take a second of your time to click the like button. Please click subscribe. Please enable notifications. Some of our viewers get extremely excited and they smash the like button, but I don't want your screen to crack. Let's clear that out. Please don't smash your screen. Gently tap that like button. It's right there. It's just going to take you a second to click the like button. And if you subscribe, you'll get a thumbs up from me. Please subscribe. It really helps out the channel. It helps out the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time, for the honest news, for the real news, wherever the facts might lead us. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next episode. Take care. Bye.